in your own sandpit. So the whole concept is this idea of stay in your own sandpit, all right? And it's this thing about when we look at whose business is it. So we stay in our sandpit, we stay in our business. We tend to have an easier life when we stay in our own sandpit. So what I'm going to do is take you through some awesomeness of the whole concept of staying in your sandpit, which is pretty freaking cool because it's this idea of when we live life from this internal way of looking at things, it's so much easier. So staying in your own sacred sandpit, not being drawn into their business. Now, when we talk about their business, we're talking about every other person and thing that's out there. What we want to do is stay in our own sandpit. So let me take you through this. What we're going to have a look at is how many sandpits are there, what's in my sacred sandpit, and what if I'm in there or someone else's sandpit. So we need to look at these because there's different types of sandpits, and we need to know what's in our own sandpit and even who is in our own sandpit. And we need to be able to identify what happens if we get caught in their sandpit, because when we notice it, then we can do something about it, because awareness brings change and it allows us to do something different and bring us back into our own sandpit. So as we go through, how many sandpits are there? Well, take a guess. There's 3. All right. So 3 different types of sandpits. There's mine or yours. There's their one, theirs, their sandpit, and there's the all else. Now, part of this comes from the concept of Byron Katie when she talks about business. So she talks about staying in your own business and how many other types of businesses there are. Now there's their business, and the other thing that she looks at is like this global kind of God's business is what she called. Now that could be whatever belief, faith, religion, whatever it is that you believe in. So what we're looking at here is we call it sandpits, because it's really cool to have that imagery in your head of having your own sandpit. So my sandpit, your sandpit, and then there's the all else sandpit. Now the all else sandpit is the stuff that we can't control. It's like if there's an earthquake, can you control the earthquake? No, you can't. It's the all else sandpit that's out there. Can you control a global pandemic? No, you can't. All right, it's the all else that's out there. So there's things that happen in nature. There's things that happen on an extended level. That's the all else sandpit. We can't control that. We can have an influence on slight, small areas of it, but we can't change it as a whole thing itself, and we can't control it. So what we're looking at is my sandpit, their sandpit, other people's sandpits, and the all else sandpit is what we identify. So there's 3 sandpits. Once we identify this, it actually helps us to bring things down a wee bit and to actually look across things and go, hey, cool. So it's an internal job. So if I look after my sandpit, it is actually going to have a ripple effect, because other people are going to be able to see what I'm doing in my sandpit and how I'm taking care of it, but it's none of their business. It's my sandpit. Same as their sandpit is none of my business. What they do out there is mine. So if you think of this, as like we're standing there looking at someone else's sandpit going, oh my gosh, it's a mess. Oh my gosh, look at all this shit they've got in there. Look at all the stuff they've got in their sandpit. Is that my business? No. Is it their business? Yes. Their sandpit, their business. My sandpit, my business. Great way to think about life. Great way to think about our whole concept. Now, what is in my sandpit? So what's in your sandpit? What's in my sandpit? It's my thoughts, my feelings, my actions, my beliefs, my values, my morals, and it's also those materialistic things. So what do we actually have in our sandpit is things, our things. Also what goes on in our top 6 inches. Now, when we look at this, I can have my thoughts, values, beliefs, morals, all those types of things, and you can have yours. Now, it's not right for me to start poking my nose into your sandpit and go, oh, you shouldn't believe that. That's not true. But it might be true for you. And so you have your values, you have your beliefs, you have your own experiences. And it's not up to me to say that those are right, wrong, or anything, because they're yours, they're not mine. So when we pull it back in and have it as an internal job, as an internal thing, then it means that my sandpit, my values, my experiences, my thoughts. And it allows us to take ownership of what's ours. And it also takes away the stress, because then we're not worried so much, or not worried at all, hopefully, about what other people think or say about us. Because what other people think or say about us is none of our business. What other people think or say about us got nothing to do with our own sandpit. So what we want to look at this is what is in our sandpit is our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our beliefs, our actions, our values, our morals, all of that kind of thing. It's our materialistic stuff as well. So whatever that is, it's yours. Whatever is in your sandpit is yours. Whatever is in someone else's sandpit is theirs. The next level to look at this, and this is where it can have such a big impact as well, is who is in my sandpit. Now, many people allow other people to come into their sandpit. So if you still want to think about it as business, then that's fine. Think about these sandpits. If you invite all these other people into your sandpit, they're going to start taking over your sandpit. They're going to start influencing and impacting you on a very deep level. And then, unfortunately, you might start thinking, so I need to believe them. They said I shouldn't have this stuff in my sandpit. So I better get rid of it. Your sandpit, your stuff. You own it. It's yours. Hold ownership, accountability, and responsibility for your own sandpit, for your own business, for who you be. It's got nothing to do with them. Now, who is in your sandpit? This is where it can get challenging for some people sometimes, because in that sandpit is yours. Now, even in a family situation or a group situation, or you've got children, or you've got partner, you've got auntie, uncle, cousin, bro, whoever, they have a sandpit, you have a sandpit. All right. So let me break this down. If you've got a family of 4, there's you, there's 2 kids, and there's partner, husband, wife, significant other, whoever that might be. 4 of you in that family unit. 4 sandpits. And before you start going, what? Each of them have their own business. Each of them have their own thoughts, beliefs, feelings, experiences, values, morals, all of these types of things. So you have your own sandpit. So in that unit of 4, family of 4, there are 4 sandpits because they each have their own. So each of them have mine, 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 mine. All right? There's only 3 different types of sandpits. And we all have mine. So that is 4 of those different sandpits. They have their own. Because if you think about this, as much as little Taka, when they're growing up, there's a lot of crossover. Okay, now, you've got to help the kid out, you've got to do things for them, that kind of stuff. They're also developing and cultivating their own experiences. They're also developing and growing and cultivating their own values and ideas on the world. And it's not for us to say it's right or wrong. It's up to us to go, hey, that might be different. And that's okay, because it's theirs. It's not yours, it's not mine, it's theirs. And these are the types of things to look at. Is who is in my sandpit? Is me. It is you. It is your sandpit. Now, if you want to invite people into your sandpit, cool. But remembering that it's your sandpit, your rules. And what I mean by that is this: control the controllables, which is you. All right? So you're not inviting people in to start changing and forming new ideas and going, that's wrong, so you have to take on my ideals. It's your ideals. You do what you want with them. You might ask for someone else's opinion on them, and that's cool. And when you leave it out there as their opinion, you don't have to take it into your sandpit. It is your choice. You hold the gate to your sandpit. Now, this is something where many people allow that gate to fly open. And this is where you've got to identify that this is your sandpit. You decide who gets in and who doesn't. And that is totally up to you. So, think about some of those situations where it'll be different people and you'd be like, something about you, not quite sure. Well, don't let them in your sandpit. Your choice. You decide who comes in and out your sandpit. Your sandpit is yours. It's not anybody else's. So the things that we have to do is, okay, cool. What's in the sandpit is thoughts, feelings, actions, beliefs, values, morals, experiences, all of this kind of stuff, and your materialistic stuff. Who is in your sandpit? You're in your sandpit. And if you want, you can choose to allow other people to come into your sandpit. However, you do want them to go back to their own sandpit. because it's actually, this is where you help other people out by taking responsibility and accountability and ownership of your own sandpit to actually help them form their own. And when we do that for people, we're actually helping them out to grow and develop in their own true selves. So you stay in your sandpit, it's your business. Going into their sandpit only creates stress for you. When we poke our noses in, it's like, oh, they shouldn't do that. They should do this. Oh, look at what they've got. Oh, look at this. Look at that. Oh, that person. We're just passing judgment. That's all it is. Going into their sandpit creates stress. So when we poke our nose in to someone else's business, it's actually causing us stress, probably causing them stress as well. What we do want to identify is, because you're in control of your own sandpit, which is you control the controllables, stay in your sandpit. You can look, you can admire, and you can offer, but it's not for you to jump into their sandpit. It's not for you to always poke your nose externally. You can't control anything external to you. You can only control the internal stuff, which is your own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. That's what you have a right to control. You don't have a right to control anybody else's sandpit. So think about this in a work situation. If you're a boss, if you're a manager, if you're a leader, allow other people to have their own sandpits. Allow other people to bring forward their strengths, their ideas. Allow them to offer up those ideas. It's not for you to go in there and say they're wrong or they're right, or this should happen or that should happen. Allow them to offer it up. And by having this concept of each person having their own sandpit, it means it's actually one of the best ways to bring a team together, because then everybody brings their strengths. Everybody is allowed to have a voice. Everybody is allowed to be heard and to be seen. And this is what you want to have if you are the leader, the manager, the boss, the CEO, whoever you are that's in charge of a group or team. You want everybody to be able to bring their best self to the situation all of the time. And you do that by staying in your own sandpit and encouraging those other people to be in their own sandpits too. Now you can bring your sandpits up alongside each other. And that's what you want to do to grow a group or a team. And what you want from there is for each person to contribute and have that common ground of where people offer their strengths, their ideas, their new ways of doing, being, all of that kind of stuff. And it brings out the best in each person. When each person has their own sandpit, you get the best out of everyone. It's a win-win-win situation for everyone. So the key is stay in your own sandpit, which is your business. And if you go into their sandpit, it's creating stress for you, it's creating stress for them, and it's bringing conflict into the situation. And you can blame no one else but yourself for bringing that conflict into the situation if you poke your nose into someone else's sandpit. These are the key things to start looking at. When we're able to step back and allow people to have their own sandpits, if you want to become happier quicker, notice whose sandpit you're in. Get in your own sandpit. And this is where you'll find that you'll thrive. And then other people see you thriving because you're doing that in your own sandpit and you're being your true self. And when other people see that happening, they want that to happen too. So if you want to be happier quicker, notice whose sandpit you're in. These are real key concepts to be focusing on. Now, why do we get caught in other people's sandpits? There's some real key ones on the top list here. Jealousy. We get the green-eyed monster. They've got better stuff in their sandpit. I want what they've got. I want to be who they are. Well, you can't. It's already taken. You can't have their sandpit. It's theirs. On that top list of why we get caught in other people's sandpits, because we're poking our nose into someone else's business. We get jealous because we want what they want. The other thing that is in there of why do we go into other people's sandpits is because our ego rises. Now, our ego is that false mask that jumps up in front of us where we think we're something and we're not really. And that ego, we jump in there going, throwing our weight round, telling people what to do, telling people what they who, should, how, when, could, blah, blah. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Keep the ego in your back pocket and stay out of other people's sandpits. The reason we go into other people's sandpits is because we think we've got the right to tell other people what to do. We have no right to tell other people what to do. We can ask for their ideas, we can ask for their contribution, and when they're in their sandpit and we're in our sandpit, we'll get the best out of each other. But if we go jumping into other people's sandpits and thinking we can control someone else or something else, create stress and we're in trouble and we're getting the worst out of a situation. Think of it on this. Can you control the weather? And hopefully you said no, right? You can't control the weather. That's the all else sandpit. You can't control the weather. What you can control is what you do, the clothes you put in, whether you choose to go out of your sandpit into the weather or not. These are the types of things you can't control that. So there's no point getting upset, because as soon as we start going, oh, it shouldn't be raining and this and that, it's cold and it's wet and it's windy and it's horrible, we're going out into that sandpit. When we start looking at what someone else is doing, we go into their sandpit. And if we start criticizing them, then it's us placing judgment on that person as well. We've got no right to do that. No right to be jumping in there and judging them. Judge first. Bring it back into your own sandpit. We go into other people's sandpits because we often get jealous. We go into other people's sandpits because we want to tell them what to do, because it makes our ego feel better. It makes us feel better. And usually it means that we're insecure, which it does. And it's these types of things. And then we think that for some reason we've got this ability to turn around and go, well, we shouldn't be raining and it shouldn't be doing this and it shouldn't be doing that. Seriously, can you control the weather? No, you can't control something that big. This is when we must return to our own sandpit and be in that space. This is an internal job. Stay in your own sandpit. We only go out there when we don't like being in our own sandpit. The other part to think of here is, are you the type of person that is happy just being in your own sandpit? Or do you distract? Do you go into other people's sandpits? Do you go into other things? Do you go into the other, all else sandpits because you don't want to stay in your own, because you don't like being in your own sandpit, which means being with your thoughts, being with yourself. That's the first place to start. And that's often what causes people to go into other people's sandpits as well, because we don't understand who we be. When we understand who we be and we understand what our sandpit is about and we understand what is in our sandpit, then we kind of like being there. It's kind of cool. Then we understand how the rules of the sandpit works. These are the things that are going to set us free in our own life. Now, the way to own your sandpit like a legend is know whose sandpit you are in. So at this point, right here, right now, think about it for yourself. Are you in your own sandpit, or are you often in someone else's sandpit? Know whose sandpit you are in, and you want to be in your own sandpit. Enjoy your sandpit. Create that sandpit so it has got these amazing types of buildings in it. Do whatever it is in your sandpit that you love being in your own sandpit. Now, to own your sandpit like a legend is to also remember and think at that point, when you are offering up information to someone else, did they ask for your advice? When you are in someone else's sandpit, haul yourself up and ask yourself, did they ask for my advice? Did they ask for my advice? Is the thing you want to ask yourself at that point in time. When you find you're in someone else's sandpit, ask yourself, did they ask for my advice? The third part here for owning your sandpit like a legend is to ask yourself right here, right now, good question, can I take the advice I'm offering and applying to my own life? The advice that you're offering and giving to other people, do you apply it to your own life? Really good ways to bring us back into ourselves, back into our own internal way of looking at our own sandpit. The offer, can I take the advice I am offering and apply it to my own life? And hopefully it's at that point where you say yes. Because as many people won't say yes, they'll say no. Because we love to dish out information and tell everybody else what they could, should, would do. And yet we don't do it ourselves. Do it in your own sandpit first. The way to own your sandpit like a legend is to identify, whose sandpit am I in? Did they ask for my advice? And can I take the advice I'm offering and apply it to my own life? These are the ways of getting yourself to come back into your own sandpit, because it's your business, your sandpit, your business, your space on your terms. And this is one way that you'll find that life is a hell of a lot easier things happen a lot smoother. There's a hell of a lot less stress. And when we pull ourselves back in, when we're busy out there offering up advice, talking at people, throwing things at them, whatever it might be, just pause at that point and go, hey, whose sandpit am I in? Jump back in your own sandpit, and you'll find that life is a hell of a lot easier for you. It runs smoother, there's less stress, you'll have more fun, and you'll actually be a whole lot more productive and accomplish so much more in your life. So stay in your own sandpit, make it your sacred space, stay in your sacred sandpit, and you'll find that life will be a whole lot easier.